And can you go ahead and put your name on the record, please?
Oh, yes, Your Honor. Alexander Curry on behalf of the people, Your Honor, P84950.
And good afternoon, Your Honor. William Mays on behalf of Ms. Matson.
Come on up, officer. Calling case of People versus Alice Matson. You could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear from the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat. And then go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Would you please repeat your name for the record?
Officer Ryan D'Amico.
And Officer D'Amico, where are you employed?
Currently employed for the City of Westland Police.
How long have you been with Westland?
About 5 years.
Where were you previously?
I worked for the City of Romulus Police.
And were you employed with the City of Romulus Police in 2016?
I was.
Specifically in April of 2016?
I was.
And in what capacity were you employed in April of 2016?
I was a road patrolman, full uniform, fully marked scout car.
And did your duties as a road patrolman take you to the area of 14125 Conover?
On that particular day, yes, it did.
Thank you. And that's in Romulus, Michigan?
Yes, sir.
In Wayne County?
Yes, sir.
And officer, do you recall the reason for you being in that general location?
We had been dispatched there after receiving a call from a person saying that there was a female in that vicinity who had felony warrants for her arrest. We were able to ascertain her information and verified that she did have several warrants for her arrest. I believe at least one of which was a felony.
And upon receiving that information, Officer D'Amico, what did you do next?
My partner and I responded to that area, began searching, checking. Through the course of our investigation, we learned that she was likely at her parents' house. I can't recall exactly if that was the Conover address, or if that was a separate address, but ultimately we made our way to that secondary location.
And upon that, or first of all, Officer D'Amico, were you by yourself or with a partner?
I had a partner that day.
Did you recall your partner's name?
Officer Eric Harris, I believe he's sergeant now.
And upon your arrival at the second location, Officer D'Amico, what, if anything, did you observe?
As we approached, I observed a woman kind of crouched in the bushes. I could clearly see it was a person, and it clearly appeared as if they were watching the road. We pulled up, and I got out of the car, said, "Hey, Romulus Police, come here." At that time, the woman proceeded to flee. Again, announced my presence, Officer D'Amico, Romulus Police, stop.
And Officer D'Amico, when you announced your presence and you said flee, what do you mean by flee?
On foot. She started running away from us on foot.
Do you recall the direction she was running?
Northwest, westerly, I believe.
And
I'd have to check my report for the exact language of it, but
I don't believe that's necessary, officer. But upon her fleeing on foot, what did you do next?
at that point I announced, "Hey, you're under, stop, you're under arrest," and I gave chase on foot.
And you recall approximately how far you gave chase?
In total, probably several hundred yards.
And do you recall the amount of time it took to pursue the female?
From start to finish, a matter of minutes until I was able to apprehend her and take her into custody.
So you eventually apprehended the female?
Yes, sir.
Is that female in court today?
Yeah, she is.
Could you possibly identify that person, maybe by an article of clothing they're wearing?
The young lady in the defendant's booth with the blue mask and the black coat, blonde hair.
Thank you. Judge, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant?
It's reflected.
Thank you, Your Honor. And upon your apprehension of the defendant, officer, what did you do then?
Searched her person, checked her for weapons and contraband.
And she was eventually placed under arrest?
Yeah, yes, sir. She was placed in handcuffs, escorted back to the patrol car.
And one last question, officer. Can you describe your uniform to the court?
Pretty much exactly what I'm wearing now, more or less. It's a Class A uniform, collar brass, badge, my name, City of Romulus on it, patches on each shoulder, full uniform, fully marked patrol car, overhead lights, side signage, whatnot.
No further questions for the witness at this time, Judge.
Mr. Mays?
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Now, Officer D'Amico, this was 6 years ago, right?
Approximately, yeah.
Okay. Did you have to review your report to recall the incident?
I did.
Okay,
I remember it, but as far as the fine minute details, I had to consult the report.
okay. And I'm sorry, who did you say you were on duty with that day?
Officer Harris.
Did he participate in any of this?
He was driving, so as far as the foot pursuit, no.
And you actually, I think it was a little unclear, you did a lot of driving that day, right?
I wouldn't say a lot. For this particular call, we made 2 locations. I think if memory serves, both were within a 2-3 mile radius at the most.
Just 2?
I couldn't be exact in the distances, but from where we were dispatched to where we ended up, I don't believe it was a vast distance.
Okay. Just to be clear, there was an anonymous tip, right?
That is correct.
I don't understand that. An anonymous tip that she's in the area?
That is correct.
She lives here, right?
One would assume so.
So there's an anonymous tip that Ms. Matson is in Romulus, even though she lives in Romulus, right?
That's what the caller provided, or if,
I don't understand. Was this something that was motivated by some sort of ill will by this person?
I wouldn't have known.
Objection, Judge, up to speculation on that.
Sustained.
Well, who was this anonymous caller?
They were anonymous, sir. I don't have their information. It wasn't provided.
Well, you spoke to this person.
We spoke with an anonymous person who didn't want to get involved.
You didn't know this person when you spoke to him?
No, sir.
I don't understand. Was there a call made to dispatcher? Was this an anonymous person that you spoke to?
Both. The person,
What was the dispatch then? Let's focus on the dispatch. Anonymous call made to dispatch?
if memory serves,
And the anonymous call to well, I guess that's the question. Do you recall?
I recall what's in the header of my report, which would be the CAD notes, which is what we were given when we were sent over there, which to my recollection, our anonymous caller says that this woman's in the area. She has warrants for arrest.
She's always in the area. She lives here, right?
But does she have warrants for arrest?
She had them for a couple of years, didn't she?
That wouldn't be my knowledge to know.
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, so then you appear at, you said the Conover address?
One of the two.
It was in your report. It says you arrived at 14125 Conover and you met with somebody there, right?
We were approached by someone,
You were approached by someone.
an anonymous citizen.
Okay, did that person live there?
I don't know.
Okay, and this anonymous tip from this anonymous person that you saw, you didn't have any track history with this person?
I have no idea.
So this person is of unknown quality. It's an unknown tip with no basis to believe it, right?
Except that we did have knowledge because we were able to locate her information and confirm that she had warrants for arrest.
You could have confirmed that she had warrants for her arrest for 2 years prior to that and gone to her house in Romulus, right?
Thus is the nature of the beast of a patrolman, sir. Every single day, every single minute is different.
All right, so the anonymous tip that Ms. Matson is located exactly where she's living, it comes to you as no surprise, right?
Well, some surprise. I have no idea who she is up until this point.
Okay, and you don't bother to verify or to verify the tip or identify the person giving the tip, right?
If
But
they don't want
let's just get this straight
Okay.
though, for the record though. This isn't like that you were entering a house where you would have to get a search warrant and maybe do a little bit more investigation on who the anonymous tip came from. This was something that all occurred outside. You saw her crouching, you approached her to get information on the identity and she fled.
that's correct.
I mean, so it wasn't, you didn't have to go in her vehicle, you didn't have to go in a house, there wasn't nothing to
That's correct.
to
All of this
make
took
you
place.
do anything to validate any of the information that you were giving. You were just following up on it precursory, if you will,
That's
and then
correct.
it turned into this incident. But different circumstances, if you'd
Understood,
been in the
understood.
house or something like that, you would have maybe proceeded a little bit differently if the
Potentially,
the
yeah.
facts were different, that she was in her vehicle or in a house or something like that.
And just one point of clarification though. This person that you met with, this anonymous tipster, you did not know that person at all and had never met that person, right?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. Now, you didn't actually just go to one more address though, did you?
We did.
You went to 15821 Sandberg, right?
I'd have to check my report, but as my memory serves, there was 2 major locations in all of this.
Okay, would looking at your report refresh your recollection?
It certainly would.
May I approach, Judge?
Yep, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Which part are you referring to?
Right there.
Okay, so Sandsburg would have been the first location we went to, and we were informed that,
Just read the report. Tell me if it refreshes your recollection.
sure. Okay,
Okay?
Yeah.
Having read that report, it refreshes your recollection, right?
it does.
Okay, so after you went to 14125 Conover, you then went to 15821 Sandberg in Romulus, right?
Correct?
Okay. And there you got out of the car, correct?
I can't remember exactly. My report reflects that we spoke to somebody there. I believe it was a friend of the defendant.
Okay, there you got out of your car, right?
I mean, if we're talking about specifics here, I talk to people from my window all the time.
Okay,
Clearly, we stopped there. I documented that.
you pulled into the driveway at 15821 Sandberg, correct?
Is that what my report reflects?
I'm asking.
Can I see it again? You're asking for specifics about an incident, sir. I'm trying to be thorough.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. We pulled in, spoke with Sarah at 15821
Just
Sandsburg.
Look at the report and tell me if it refreshes your recollection, please.
Okay.
Okay. And reviewing the report again, second time, refreshes your recollection again, right?
Yes,
Okay. You pulled into the driveway at 15821 Sandberg in Romulus. You pulled into the driveway there, right?
we stopped at the location and spoke with someone.
Okay.
As to whether or not we pulled into the driveway, I cannot recall that exact fact.
You got out of the car to identify who actually lives at that address, correct?
Correct,
You went up to the door and knocked, correct?
correct,
You made contact with someone named Sarah Matson, correct?
correct,
And Sarah Matson said, I live here, right?
correct.
Okay. And Sarah indicated to you that Ms. Matson was not there at that house, correct?
Correct.
Now, at that point, Sarah Matson gives you further information to help you locate Ms. Matson here,
I'm going to
right?
object to relevance, Judge. Is Mr. Mays going to go through the report line by line?
Have you met Mr. Mays?
This will be my first exam with Mr. Mays, Your Honor.
The answer to that is probably. And if he had a chalkboard, I would indicate
We
to you
need
that
to get
he
a
would
chalkboard.
pull out
We
the
really need a
chalkboard.
chalkboard.
If it was a chalkboard and it was a drunk driving or a marijuana case, we would have the nanograms going up or down or just
Understood, Your
to
Honor.
let you know. But Mr. Mays,
Thank you, Judge.
wrap it up.
Okay, no problem. You received additional information regarding where Ms. Matson might be, right?
Yes.
From her sister, right?
No, it was the original anonymous caller. I
No,
believe
you
the only
spoke to-
information Sarah gave us was that she had just dropped her off.
Yeah, Sarah indicated to you that she had dropped her off at her house, right?
If you
So
go
you
down
got
to
the
the next
informa-
paragraph beneath that, I get into your question.
You got the information from two sources, the anonymous
More or
caller
less,
and the
yes.
sister.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so then you drove to 39211 Wade to try and locate Ms. Matson, right?
Correct,
Okay, now that's your third location at this point, correct?
correct.
Are we still in Romulus at this point?
On the border, yes.
Okay. You go and you find that that house is empty, right?
The Wade address, yes, I believe.
Okay. You went up, you knocked at the door, you looked in the windows, right?
Yes,
And that's actually where Ms. Matson lives, right?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
It appeared abandoned.
All right. And then somehow this anonymous person arrives on the scene, right?
Correct.
A second time, right?
If you're referring to the first being the call they made, yes.
No, there was first the call, then you made personal contact with this anonymous person, and then for a third time, this anonymous person walks up to you
Where did
again
I-
at the Wade address.
Where did I indicate that?
Did the anonymous person walk up to you at the Wade address?
I had contact with this person one time, other than the original call. The only person we spoke with previously before speaking with this unknown person who did not wish to identify themselves was Sarah.
Let me back up, just because I'm completely unclear now.
You and me both.
Initially, you get a dispatch call, right?
Correct.
That's through radio. You go to the location at 14125 Conover, right?
Correct.
At 14125 Conover, the person, the anonymous person, flags you down and talks to you, right?
Is that reflected in my report, sir?
Yeah,
We're
report says-
dancing in circles here.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, you are correct, sir. My apologies. So yes, I had contact with them at 2 points.
Does reviewing your report refresh your
Don't add
recollection?
into his, you were right. I apologize.
That's okay, I don't
Mr.
mind.
Mays. Don't add, don't acknowledge.
Does it refresh your recollection?
It does, thank you.
All right, so initially,
I
the
didn't mean any
anonymous
disrespect
person
with that either. I truly-
flags you down at 14125 Conover, correct?
That is correct.
So the anonymous person has called the 911, then you have contact with the anonymous caller on Conover. You then drive over to Wade, or I'm sorry, Sandberg, then to Wade, and then at 39211 Wade, the anonymous caller appears yet again, walking up to you and tells you yet again where Ms. Matson might be, right?
Correct.
Now, how far is 39211 Wade from 14125 Conover?
Not a great distance, a few miles at the most,
A few miles.
at the most.
Okay.
We're talking about the southwest end of Romulus, which again, I haven't been there in several years, but it's all kind of interconnected.
But this anonymous person wasn't in a vehicle, was she?
I wouldn't know.
I'm asking.
I wouldn't know.
You said that this person approached you. Did this person approach you on foot or in a car?
When I spoke with them, they were on foot.
So this person walked several miles to make contact with you again at the Wade address?
I wouldn't know.
You don't recall?
I wouldn't know. I don't recall. I don't know.
Okay.
Report is what it is.
All right. And then, and I'm sorry, Wade is still in Romulus,
Yes, sir.
but that one's on the border, right?
Ish, I believe so.
Okay. The anonymous person then tells you, hey, Ms. Matson has parents that live in the area and gives you the parents' address, right?
Yes,
Again, you don't bother to verify that tip or the accuracy of that tip, and you don't know the nature of the anonymous caller or who that person is, right?
are they obligated to provide it to me?
I'm asking.
Don't- Officer, just, you can't ask questions.
Can
while
you,
you're
can you ask me
sitting.
that one more time, please?
Sure. You don't bother to verify the tip, and you still don't identify this anonymous person.
I'm not required to, no.
Okay, all right. And you leave your jurisdiction at
No.
that point. You drive to 14228 Hannon, right?
Which is a border street, correct?
It's outside your jurisdiction.
It is not.
It's a border street, Mr. Mays.
You indicated that Hannon, this house is directly west of the intersection on Hannon, right?
That is correct.
And this is where you finally started looking through the area for Ms. Matson, correct?
That's when I saw her.
Okay. You see her and she is walking away from you, correct?
Correct.
Now, you, of course, do DUI enforcement up in Westland nowadays, don't you?
I
Occasionally.
don't object to relevance on that, Judge.
What's the relevance, Mr. Mays?
We're going to talk about consensual contact.
No, we're not.
Well,
No, we're
let
not.
me get into consensual contact though, if I could, please, Judge.
Limited, Mr.
Sure.
Mays.
You make consensual contact with people all the time, right?
Every day.
Because let me stop you. Because answer this question.
Yes,
Riddle me this.
yes.
Consensual contact is
Exception to the warrant requirement.
It's an issue of fact for a jury.
Well, yes,
Whether or
that-
not it was consensual contact is an issue of fact for a jury.
Understood.
Not what we're doing today. We're doing
I understand.
PC, probable cause, not a trial.
I understand, Your Honor. I will make it move. Officer, Ms. Mattson was not under any obligation to approach you, correct?
No, she was actively trying to get away from us when she saw us
Which is her right.
until she was given an order to stop police.
And you said that she was several hundred yards away, correct?
That's incorrect. No, the totality of the distance of the pursuit, the foot pursuit, was several hundred yards. She was no
Several
less
hundred
from me
yards.
to you when
Let
I
me-
first saw her.
Let me clarify that. Are we talking 200 yards or 400 yards?
I didn't get my tape measure out. I wouldn't be able to tell you that accurately, but it was a vast distance at the end of the day.
How
When
many
when I first saw her, she was no further from me to you,
which is 20 feet for the record.
She was 20 feet away from you and walking away.
approximately,
She was 20 feet away and walking away, correct?
approximately.
Was she walking or running?
At that time, it was more, how to describe it? The saunter, I guess, where I'm not doing anything, don't look at me.
Saunter.
Yes, ma'am.
I like that. I like saunter. We'll go with saunter.
Perfect.
She is sauntering away from you. And at this point, you're still in your car, correct?
By that point, I had gotten out of my car.
So you get out of your car at 14228 Hannon, right?
Correct. I believe we were on the shoulder.
Okay. And you did not, in fact, order her to stop initially, correct?
I said, come here, police.
You said,
No.
stand up to her, correct?
Correct. If that's what's
And-
indicated in my report.
And she ran.
Correct.
She was under no legal obligation to stand up.
That's a
Correct.
legal conclusion. I'm going to direct him not to answer. It's a legal conclusion,
that's
Mr.
fair.
Mays.
You indicated that you had never met the anonymous caller, right?
Correct.
You had never met Ms. Mattson either, correct?
Correct.
So all that you see is a blonde girl who refuses to stand up and begins to run away, correct?
I mean, her physical attributes matched what was provided to us through lien. So in the simplistic term you just put it, no.
What biographical information was conveyed to you on lien that would have caused you to believe that this is Ms. Mattson?
Can I refer to my report again and I can tell you?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, kindly. The lien information appears to have been redacted. I don't imagine that we have the original, do we? Because otherwise I would just be going off of her information in a person's tab, which I don't think would be fair or answer your question accurately. Typically, what I used to do at that particular, oh, forgive me.
Yep, that's okay. So this report does not refresh your recollection. Fair?
No, that's not correct at all.
I'm sorry, it does refresh your recollection?
It does reflect my recollection. Yes, I
Okay.
could, it helps me remember.
Okay, it helps you remember because you see that the lien information has been redacted from the copy that's provided to defense counsel. Yes?
Correct?
The absence of that record in this paper document refreshes your recollection as to what the physical description was that was provided regarding Ms. Mattson?
Yes.
Okay, so then what was the physical description?
As far as that goes, I couldn't be honestly say,
Okay,
I could attest to what I see now, but that wouldn't be fair now, would it?
all right. Ms. Matson only made it to the back of her parents' house at 14228 Hannon, right?
Depends on your definition of the back.
Well, there's a small hill at the back of their property, right?
Pretty large hill.
And it was as she was going down that hill that you identified yourself as a Romulus police officer and told her to stop, correct?
In that vicinity, yes.
Okay. That was at the end of the pursuit though, correct?
It was still very much going on, but yeah,
Okay. And she tumbles down into this marshy area and gets stuck in that marshy area, right?
correct,
And she wasn't running at that point, was she?
correct.
We can agree that throughout the course of this, Ms. Matson never assaulted you, correct?
Correct,
Or battered or wounded you, right?
correct.
She never endangered you either, correct?
Forcing me to chase her down this 50-foot ravine would be kind of dangerous, but other than that, no.
Okay, so the claim is that she somehow resisted or obstructed or opposed you, right?
She refused lawful orders of a police officer to stop, and that she was under arrest.
Okay. No further questions? Thank you.
You don't have anything else?
No,
Officer,
Judge.
you can step down.
No,
Thank you, Mr.
Motion to bind over.
Yes, Judge. Yes, I'm sorry. The people would move to bind us over as charged, Judge.
Argument, Mr. Mays.
Judge, I'm looking at the elements of the offense, and certainly I
Thanks,
agree with the
officer.
officer that we are focusing on resisting, obstructing, or opposing an officer in the course of their duties. Officer D'Amico testified that initially he testified on direct that he had given these lawful commands for Ms. Matson to stop. But through the course of my cross-examination, what I established was he didn't give a lawful command until the very end of this. As he indicated, he got out of his car and told her to stand up. That was not a lawful command, and she wasn't required to do that. He didn't tell her that she was under arrest or engage in any sort of legal command to her. When she runs from the officer, it isn't until after, according to his testimony, they ran several hundred yards, which for the court's edification would be at least a half mile, I'm guessing, maybe even 3/4 of a mile. I think that he's engaging in a little bit of exaggeration with that he didn't run nearly that far, because that's not how far the back of the property where she was at, her parents' house, it would not be that large, especially in the city of Romulus, as you might know, Judge. So she goes from the front yard to the backyard, and it's as she's going down this ravine that he then says to her, according to his own testimony on cross, he tells her that he's a Romulus police officer and that she's required to stop, that she's under arrest. That's the lawful command that he gives her. And at that point, she's going down the ravine and she is in fact stopped. So the question is here, there are reasonable degrees that a person might engage in that doesn't rise to the level of a crime. They arrested her, they made the arrest, no problem, okay, all is well and good. The question is whether a separate crime was committed during the course of that. And this is similar to those cases where an officer says, oh, they flexed up in the cuffs. There's a reasonable amount of force or fleeing that these officers are going to engage in. If he had told her to stop initially because he had a warrant for arrest and identified himself, that'd be a different story, but that's not what he did. He waited until the very end after, quote unquote, running several hundred yards. It wasn't until the end of that pursuit that he identified himself as an officer and made a lawful command. They fail on the elements, and so therefore I'm asking that you quash the bind over.
Judge, we don't fail in the elements. When Officer D'Amico makes his lawful command, she was in the process of running away. So I think as Mr. Mays would have us look at this situation, in that Snapchat, was she moving? But am I moving in this situation right now as I'm talking to you, Judge? I'm not. But in the course of giving that lawful command, Judge, to stop, based on the warrants, based on the description that mattered, I think we may have lost track of that a little bit, but based on the description that matched what Officer D'Amico saw, the defendant ended up taking off running. And in that process, Judge, in that totality, the defendant was running and the officer did give a lawful command. So Judge, if you would ask for a
Two things. First of all, I think it's an issue of fact for a jury. I'm going to bind her over as charged. But as a second note, I think this is a horrible overcharge on behalf of the prosecutor's office. I don't think it should have been charged as a felony based on the facts in this case, but it's typical
Thank you, Judge.
Wayne County. So Ms. Mattson, you also have a pretrial, looks like August 5th with me. So make sure that you appear on that pretrial. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And we have Mr. Green that we're going to do. Who's your witness on Green? Is it Sparks?
I wanted to talk to Rebecca Tieppo for that.
Oh, on DEPA, what are we,
She's here for waivers. I thought we were gonna do that first.
on DEPA? We can do the waiver first.
And for the record, Judge, we did offer a misdemeanor.
Still was overcharged. Offering something that should have been charged in the first place is not.
Well, you know, that's why we have preliminary exams, because if people charge, if they don't charge right, or you get here and talk to people, I change the charges on things every week. Because I think they overcharge, undercharge, but.
Is this a waiver, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Come on out, Mr. DEPA. Tim, people versus Andrew DEPA. On behalf of the people,
Jane Gillis on behalf of the people.
on behalf of Mr. DEPA.
Good afternoon. May it please the court, Jennifer Colthurst, P52876. I appear on behalf of Mr. Andrew DEPA. Your Honor, I did have an opportunity to discuss this matter with Mr. DEPA. I've advised him of his statutory right to have a preliminary examination at which prosecution must show probable cause exists to show that a crime was committed and that he's the person who probably committed the offense in the city of Belleville. Having understood all that, Your Honor, it's Mr. DEPA's decision to waive the preliminary examination and have the matter transferred to the circuit court for further proceedings.
Is that correct, Mr. DEPA?
That's correct.
And you understand that by signing the waiver that you're going to be bound over on these charges?
Correct.
The defendant and his attorney having signed the waiver? I'll bind the defendant over. The arraignment on the information will take place 1 week from today on June the 23rd. And I'll continue the bond.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. DEPA, you can go back with the officer.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm gonna go with this. I'm gonna go to them now.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Is that right that the bond is only 5,000, 10%? Is he held on something else?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, just checking.
Yes.